East. In 1930, I have a question for you. Do you feel lucky today? I do, because Clint Eastwood was born today in 1930. And in 1943, Alabama and New York Jets Hall of Fame quarterback Broadway Joe Namath was born today. Moving right along, Dr. Jim, our next speaker. Dr. Jim will be speaking his first speaker number 1 from Speeches by Management, 8 to 10 minutes. Dr. Jim.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you all coming here today because I have a very important announcement that the company has asked me to share with you today. As you know, we're committed to providing the most progressive work environment that we possibly can. Now, we have recently completed a survey of the top 10 information technology companies within the North America sector. What we've discovered is that they all share a common characteristic that currently we don't share. In order to make a more attractive work environment, one that will boost the productivity of our employees, and one that hopefully will allow us to retain more of our workers over time, I'm here to announce that we are making a change to our workplace policy. We will be rolling out adoption of a Bring Your Pet to Work program. We feel that this is what's been missing from our work environment. We think that this is going to have a transformational effect on our organization. First off, we believe that it's going to boost productivity, and that's what all the studies have told us. And then secondly, we also think that it's going to transform our work environment, perhaps from the somewhat sterile environments that we have today, into hopefully more of a community, more of an inviting place where people want to come to work. And I'll be honest with you, we'll want to stay and do more work. So that's our overall goal. Now, this is a fairly momentous change, as you can well imagine. If you think about how your work environment is now, it is going to undergo some serious transformations. And that is a big portion of why I'm standing here today having this discussion with you. Many of us don't like change, and I can understand that. However, we've decided that this is the policy that we're going to implement. So I want to talk with you about how we're going to introduce this change into all of our lives. And I think if we work together, we can make this a positive change that enhances our work environment for all of us. Now, first off, and arguably one of the first questions that I'm getting asked by people who become aware of this particular program is, what pets are going to be permitted to be brought into the workplace? You know, we sat down, we took a look at it, we realized a lot of people have a lot of different pets. Okay? And so trying to classify pets as pets that can come into work and pets that can't come into work, it turned out to be sort of a task that we really didn't feel that we could categorize. And listen, if you have an animal as a pet, then we're saying you can bring it into work. Okay? And that's where we're going to start. Clearly, we need to have some additional rules around that, but that's effectively what we're saying. If it's your pet, and if you feel bringing it into work is going to enhance your productivity and your enjoyment of your job, then we say go for it. Go ahead and bring the pet into work. Okay, which leads into obviously a few more issues that we need to have a discussion about. Okay? You are responsible for your pet while your pet is at work. What this means is when you arrive in the morning, your pet needs to either be on a leash or it needs to be in a container. You cannot carry your pet into work. You cannot have your pet follow you into work. I fully understand that a number of you probably have extraordinarily well-trained pets, and congratulations on that. You know, it takes a great deal of time, energy, and effort to achieve that level of relationship with any animal. Okay? But you can also understand that we are a corporate work environment. You're also bringing your pet into a strange environment that will contain other animals, right? And we're not quite sure how your pet will react. So a requirement is when you arrive in the morning, your pet needs to be on a leash or needs to be in a container. An interesting point comes when we have all of these pets at work, it's going to be a very mixed up environment. we're going to have a lot of different animals socializing, and perhaps not all of these animals are going to get along, okay? As the owner of your pet, you are responsible for your pet while it's at work with you. What that means is that your pet has to be under your supervision at all times. I can only speak for myself, but I know that when I'm on a conference call or when I'm perhaps doing some particular bit of very focused work, my attention can become very narrow, can become very tunnel vision, and I would not necessarily be keeping an eye on my pet. And so we're going to tell you that if this is your situation, and I think it's a situation for pretty much everybody else, you need to make sure that your pet cannot wander off, which means it probably has to be tethered or has to be in a container while it's at work. Okay? So that's a fairly reasonable request, we believe, on this one. We also understand that everybody reacts to pets differently, right? A lot of people have pet allergies, and this is an issue of great concern for us. We don't want to come up with a blanket rule, because we understand a blanket rule could never adequately deal with all the possible issues that could show up with this. So instead, we're going to come up with some general guidelines that we're going to ask everybody to follow. If there's somebody in your work environment who has an allergic issue with your particular pet, we're going to ask that you take steps to keep your pet as far away from that person as possible. It is your responsibility to do this. Ultimately, the reason that we're allowing pets into the work environment is to boost everybody's productivity and to boost everybody's enjoyment of the work environment. Anything that takes away from that, clearly, is something that we don't want to encourage. Okay? Now, if it turns out, for example, your cube mate unfortunately has an allergic issue with your particular pet, that's going to be an issue that may not be able to be solvable by you, and we understand that. In that particular type of situation, which we certainly hope is going to be very rare, we've got a couple different ways to solve it, but primarily we're going to ask that you talk with your supervisor. In that type of situation, it may be necessary to relocate one or both of you within your work environment, just simply to separate it. Because we want everybody, once again, to enjoy having pets at work, but also we don't want it to be a distraction or to take away from your overall productivity. Now, we also understand that not all animals get along. Okay, so this is actually a very key issue, and this is something that we probably really need to talk about quite closely. Okay, so if you, for example, have a ferret and your cube mate has a snake, okay, animals that traditionally do not get along, we're concerned about the interaction between that, and we're also concerned that the negative interaction between the pets could actually distract both you and your cube mate from what you're supposed to be doing, which is, of course, your work, okay? We would ask, once again, we're not trying to come up with a blanket rule here, but rather we're trying to put the responsibility on both you and your cube mate in this particular situation to come up with a solution that's going to work for both of you. One possibility in that particular situation is that you alternate days that you bring your pets in, so only one of the conflicting pets is at work on a given day. Things like that can be worked out. Whatever works best for you. In some cases, it might simply just be so that the one pet can't see the other pet. Unfortunately, this, of course, leads to the next issue. There will be times probably where animals come into contact in a violent way. They're animals, after all. We understand this. We're going to treat animal conflict as being effectively a workplace assault. Because we can't determine whether or not it was accidental or whether it was caused or encouraged by the owner, we arguably have to treat it as a workplace assault. The assaulting animal will be banned from ever being brought into work again. That certainly seems like a fairly reasonable thing to do. And we also understand that the animal that was assaulted, the individual whose pet that was, may be traumatized by this, so we're going to authorize them to have a day off. Okay? If it's even more disturbing for them, they can work out with their supervisor, perhaps take some vacation days to do it also. I'm hesitant to bring up the next item, but I feel that we should discuss it now so that should this ever arise, we have to take care of. There is a possibility that a pet may kill another pet. Once again, a tragic circumstance. We certainly hope this never happens, but as the menagerie gets set up, things like this can actually happen. In this particular case, what we're going to say is clearly the animal is banned and can never come back. Once again, as a worker, we're going to actually give you 2 days off in this particular situation to deal with the emotional loss of your pet. And we're actually we'll have counseling available for you to help you deal with this particular situation. My time is quickly running to an end. There's a few more items I just wanted to touch on very quickly. We are a diverse work environment. We have people from many different cultures who work here. I would urge you to be aware of that. And in many cultures, certain pets are considered to be dirty or unacceptable. Specifically, I'm talking about dogs. Okay? So although you love your dog and you love when your dog greets you and licks you and comes up to you close, there may be coworkers who do not view this as being an enjoyable situation. I would urge you to keep your eyes open and just determine how your coworkers are reacting to your particular pet. And one final point, if at any point in time your pet goes missing, okay, you are responsible for alerting everybody in your work environment that the pet is lost and asking for their assistance in finding it. Once again, I hope that you all join me in celebrating what I think is going to transform our work environment from a sterile work environment into effectively, I like to think of it as an arc, but an arc that we're all going to be on together. Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster.